Namaste. Like everyone who is doing this attunement meditation, to lie down in a comfortable position, preferably on something firm enough so your back doesn't hunch or sags too deep into like a soft mattress, and yet soft enough so that your body doesn't tense or become sore. I would like for you to check into your body to see how it feels, and to take some time to gently relax your body. What I'd like for you to do is to focus on your right ankle and inhale and point your toe towards your head. Inhale and exhale, relax, releasing the tightening, and doing it 2 more times. Inhale, tighten, pointing the toe towards the head, and exhale, relax and let go. And doing the same with the left foot. And taking your right shoulder, inhale and move it towards your right ear. And exhale, bringing it back down, sliding it across the surface. And 2 more times. Arching your lower back, inhaling, and exhale, flattening. Two more times. I'd like for you to imagine that your head is like a ball floating in the ocean near the shore. As the water splashes into the shore and goes forward, the ball is carried one way, and as the water recedes back into the ocean, it goes the other way. I feel like your head is rolling back and forth, moving to the right and to the left, as if it's being like that ball floating in the water. Inhaling one way, exhaling the other. And then to rest the movement of the head and do a slow motion yawn, going as you open your mouth wide, let your jaw stretch open, not to the point of strain, but just open very wide. and relaxing the jaw on the exhale. I'd like you to inhale into your chest and move your shoulder blades towards each other, arching the upper torso. And exhale, letting that flatten too. And then letting the body just rest, only doing the minimum amount of motion it takes to breathe. Belly expanding on the inhale, belly relaxing on the exhale. Continue to breathe. I'd like you now to feel like you're drawing a line with your right index finger, following the nose bone, feeling like you're going upwards from the nose bone all the way up to the top of your head, right through the middle, and feel the point that is called the third eye point. It intersects between the eyebrows, and you'll feel a small indentation there in that area. That'll be the exact location. It's just very slightly above the eyebrows. And then as you go upwards, you'll go to what is called a hairline, and that's the initial point, the center of imagination. And then if you find the midpoint between the two, there will be another small indentation, and that is the center of intentionality. And these three chakras are meant to function together. They're usually lumped together as the third eye center. And the three circles, in a sense, of Honshize Shonen match up to these three centers. The circle with a plus in it is placed where the plus is right there at that point, at the hairline. And then the point where the spiral intersects the main stem is the center of will, and then the point where the lightning bolt touches the end point, that's the third eye place. I'd like for you to visualize this symbol, asking the Reiki guides to bless and energize it. Feel it descend in through the soft spot at the top of the head, and have it be placed in these locations on the forehead. And in terms of the history of the Tanran Reiki symbols, this was one of the first ones that came through. The first one was the Tanran symbol. The second one was Honshize Shonen. After the Zigana symbol came, that came very first. So Zigana, Tanran, and then Honshize Shonen. And the Daikomyo and Honshize Shonen of the original Reiki transmission is in Kanji, and in Tanran Reiki all the Kanji is gone and replaced with more geometric-like symbols. And one event occurred that was interesting, where the Goi Peace Society had a person come to the United States, and was attuned to Tanran Reiki, and she brought it back to Japan with her and shared it with some of her Reiki friends there. And I was curious to see how they would respond to the absence of the Kanji. And what her friends said was that they were happy with Tanran Reiki because it kept the poetry of Reiki alive. And what is interesting is that when a person who's raised in calligraphy draws the calligraphy of Daikomyo and Honshisei Shonen, they do it in a fluid motion where when you're raised with English, one tends to lift the pen and make the lines, like brings the pen down to make the lines, whereas in calligraphy the brush stroke is smoother. It lifts and comes back in a more fluid way, so there's much more of a spiraling motion to calligraphy. And so when people do the symbols in kanji, they have more fluid motions in the way that one would if one did this Honshisei Shonen. And I'd like for you to trace it with your hand, like draw the circle. Actually start with the plus, and then you draw the circle around it. Then you lift and drop down for the smile, and then move it down, spiraling out, and then bring it back for the lightning bolt and put another circle. It is a very fluid motion to do this. And the meaning behind this is related to the function of Honshisei Shonen for remote healing. So I'd like for you to pick a person to do remote healing to and visualize the Honshisei Shonen symbol linking you together. Visualize it being placed on their forehead. And you start with the centering, and that's the plus, centering the four elements of life, with the fifth element being consciousness or space itself. And then you consecrate the space with a circle around it. So once you center, you create sacred space, and you release concern with everything outside the circle, and focus on the link you're making through first imagination. You're imagining the link. You're visualizing the symbol being placed on their forehead. Then you take a step in trust, which is the smile or the crescent moon, which represents beginnings, and you're stepping from the circle plus into the smile, which is like a cup, like life is holding you. So you let yourself be held by life. And once you're held by life, life will take you into its center. And you go to the place down the line, and you let go of body, heart, and mind. And then you place your intention to send remote healing to the person you've decided. So you go from imagination to intention. And then you continue to spiral. So you pick up mind, heart, and body along the way. After you surrender, you pick them back up again, but with a surrendered state. And then you go down the line, and then you send a pure current of energy into an empty space that's receiving your energy. And that's the openness of the person you have chosen. And I would like for you to feel, one way of describing people who come for sessions is receivers. That you can sometimes call them patients or clients. one way of understanding is that these are people who are receivers, people who've chosen to receive energy. Patient doesn't always match because sometimes people do not have a specific illness. And client is a good word, but it's very economic. So receiver is one that explains their actual function when they're coming. They're going to receive universal unconditional love and allow it to accept, heal, and transform their energies as much as possible. So a surge of energy enters their openness. So encoded in the symbol itself is a pattern of remote healing. So I'd like for you to feel that the energy is pouring into their third eye, and feel like you're now moving from your intentionality into your clairvoyance or third eye center, your intuitive seeing. And feel like you're scanning inside the person. And when you do the scanning, you want to remain in non-judgment of what you see. And one way of understanding it is that we can do an affirmation here, which is, there are no faults, just characteristics. There are no faults, just characteristics. And there's two kinds of characteristics, ones that are peaceful and ones that are afflicted. And an afflicted is an observation. If something contains suffering in it, it's afflicted. It's better than the word bad in a way, though you can use it loosely if you don't make it into a judgment. If bad means afflicted, it's okay to use it. It's good to occasionally reword it just to remember, because sometimes we do have a tendency to think in terms of judgments. And so if you see like clouds of dark energy and all these things, simply note them, and you don't want to try to immediately fix what you see. It's better just to feel like you're observing the energy patterns, and also not to worry about whether what you see is true or false. Trust that your imagination has been surrendered, so it's serving your awareness of what is. So that when you let go of your mind, heart, and body, your imagination gets, in a sense, consecrated by life and transformed into a seeing. And if you do share what impressions you're getting, you will find that people will confirm them. And I recommend not needing to be very specific when you're scanning. You want to keep the impressions general, just so you have some kind of handle on what you see. And also, too, once you get a handle there, feel like you're visualizing light pouring through you, through your heart, and being sent to the other person. And feel like you're flooding the areas of darkness that you see inside. Not with the intention of getting rid of them, but just simply sending energy to all the places that's inside their energy field. One of the beauties of Reiki is you don't have to diagnose. As a matter of fact, it's not really legal to diagnose. And you don't have to prescribe. And again, it's not legal to prescribe either. You can suggest things, and you can make some kind of assessment of what's going on there. And one teacher that I studied with taught me to go from general to specific, to pick share impressions in a very general way. Like if an area feels tight or sore or tired, simply say it like that. Um, when we are doing remote healing, we will develop a psychic sense of what goes on there. And we don't have to be as precise as the amazing Kreskin on a psychic TV show. We're not needing to prove that. Sometimes it's useful to show some indication that you're being aware. That might make a person feel more open to what you have to share. But it isn't necessary. And so when you go into clear seeing, you'll see blockages and things like that. Keep running energy and just breathe and stand in presence of their process. And one Reiki affirmation is, I'm not here to take on your karma. You're not here to take on mine. I'm here to just send Reiki energy or unconditional loving energy to the whole situation, and whatever is ready to be healed will be healed. I'd like you to feel the truth of that you just send energy, or whatever wants to be healed will get healed. Continuing to breathe. Continue to breathe. I'd like you to feel you're gently scanning. Again, you're not trying to diagnose what's going on or even label things. I'd like for you to feel that all the conditions you feel inside of a person are, in a sense, a mystery, and that when we label some mystery as cancer, it doesn't change it to a non-mystery. In a very realistic sense, our society doesn't really know what cancer is. And sometimes when we hear a person having a very severe illness, we wonder if Reiki can heal it. What I'd like for you to do is to feel that the energy that you're sending love into is a mystery, and it's being labeled as cancer. And once we label something, the mind feels like it knows it, but it still remains a mystery. It's just the one that's been labeled. And we might be able to match some elements of that mystery, but there's no two cancers alike. Every disease pattern is unique for the moment. Some patterns can go from person to person a lot, but when it goes from person to person, it changes. Some people die from it, some people don't. And so, I'd like you to feel that you don't have to name what is. And notice how that affects what you see. Continuing to breathe. Once you find something that feels a little dark, you can run energy through it. One way is to start with 2 red dots at the soles of the feet. Feel the energy gently rise up. And again, you're not trying to force anything. If you feel you're forcing something, that means that the person isn't entirely receptive. At the same time, no one's really completely closed either. So the best thing to do is just keep running energy just to see what happens. And there is a story where Hercules is cleaning what's called the Augean stables, They're stables of giant horses, and he was shoveling manure in these giant stables. And he was getting farther and farther behind until he decides to divert a river, and it floods these stables and cleanses them. And what that means is that the best way of handling all kinds of multiple things is just to let go of trying to solve each illness in a disease by disease protocol. And just feel like love is being sent. Love is pure energy. And let love heal the people. Continuing to breathe. Once you run energy for a while, you'll notice a lot of stuff will disappear all by itself. So we didn't really need to analyze those things unless they keep returning back. In other words, once you flood the Augean stables, a lot of stuff gets removed that didn't need to be analyzed. And then what remains is like the stubborn stains, and you can focus energy on those places. And sometimes things are not meant to be healed at a certain session, so we do not try to force things. So if some area is not transforming under the energy, just lovingly accept its resistance and feel like you're pouring energy around the resistance so it transforms the locality. Sometimes when a person does take a nap, they overdo. Continuing to breathe. I'd like you to focus on the back of the neck and visualize yourself touching the points on either right or left of the neck, right where the occiput or skull is resting on the vertebra. And feel like you're holding these two cranial sacral points and breathing and running energy there. You can even feel like you're holding it with your hands in your own space and connecting up with the visualization. And then focusing on the knees, pouring energy into those two knees and elbows and wrists. Continue to breathe. Sometimes the vertebra right at the top will release spontaneously in a jolt of energy. It's the same thing that happens when you fold a hose and you run powerful water through it. It'll suddenly straighten out. And also, if you find that a vertebra is having a hard time adjusting or realigning, sometimes running energy will help either soften it so it does realign itself, or make the job of a chiropractor easier. And sometimes it's possible the energy is running well to do a yoga pose and have the vertebra pop by very gentle movements that just do enough stretching to invite the vertebra to line up. Continuing to breathe. Continuing to breathe. Checking into your belly to see if you're still doing deep, slow, and smooth and full inhales, and soft, slow, and smooth exhales. And not holding your breath as inhale changes the exhale and exhale changes the inhale, but feel a smooth turning instead of a pause. So you're going and if you breathe this way, every breath will relax you. It's good to know if you're going through a lot of stress. And one of the transmissions regarding breathing is that if you're really going through a difficult transition and you find your attention scattered and you're very reactive and vulnerable, if you can just remember to consciously breathe and expand the belly as said, and turn the inhale and the exhale into each other, feeling one smooth circle of breathing includes inhale and exhale. You can breathe through any challenge. It may take a while, but as long as you're consciously breathing through your experience, you will grow. And the idea is to persist long enough for you to move through whatever challenge is coming up. And if you're doing remote, it's good to walk a person through some of the breathing so that you relax deeper and deeper. The receiver can do three things to deepen their session. One is give permission, feel a readiness to change, and then feeling an openness to change, to open up and allow the healing to occur. And if you feel a certain kind of resistance coming from a person where you feel like you're pushing against something, you want to move away, you want to back away and give them space to resist. And you can even have them do an affirmation. It's okay to resist the process. It is okay to resist the process. It is okay to resist the process. Whatever's coming up, you can have them affirm that it's okay. If anger is coming up, you can say it's okay for anger to come up. It's okay for sadness to come up. It's okay for fear to come up. And when we go into the okayness of things being the way they are, that is the mood of loving acceptance. Everything is okay as it is. There are no faults, there are just characteristics. And by doing so, we remove any judgments we may be placing on the receiver. And just like most people are not 100% open to being healed, it's also true that most people are not 100% closed to being healed either. And I'd like you to feel you're always sending energy into the part that's open, even if it's smaller. And the more they receive, the more they can receive. That openness leads to more openness, and permission leads to more permission. and readiness leads to more readiness. Continue to breathe. Continue to breathe. Continue to breathe. So I'd like for you to feel that you're sending energy into a mystery, and when you place that intention, you make the connection with imagination, you're trusting your imagination is being transformed by the Reiki guides to something that can reliably perceive what's there. And again, it's general to specific, that the information will get more and more clear as you go through the process. And sometimes general is all that you need in order to clear something. Continue to breathe. Feeling the link as you send energy from your centers to the person you've chosen and who's chosen you. And feel the mood of loving acceptance of whatever it is there, and also to feel you're sending energy into a mystery called illness so that it can be healed. In the Gospels, the Gospel according to John, there's some interesting subtle variations, because the Gospel according to John in many ways is Jesus the healer. And the apostles asked Jesus in one of the stories, well, who sinned, this man or his parents, if he was born blind? And the answer that Jesus gives is very interesting. He says neither. Says said the person is born blind so the glory of God can enter into him. And it's a strange passage. Jesus spoke originally in Aramaic, and so the words didn't translate too well into Greek, but roughly this is what is being shared there. There are two theories of the karma that causes illnesses. One is due to our actions in past lifetimes. The person is born blind, and in order to sin and be born blind, you have to have a lifetime previous to the one you're living in order to do that. So the apostles believe in reincarnation, otherwise the question would not make any sense. And Jesus accepts their premise as valid, and so he ends up believing in it too. The second one is that the second theory is the one that Judaism tends to believe, which is that the sins of the fathers are visited even onto the third and fourth generation, which means that a certain kind of karma is passed generationally as well. And in Karmic astrology, they're both considered valid ways that karma is transmitted. We inherit generational karma from parents. We bring our karmic patterns through the 12th house. Saturn repeats the lessons we did not fully learn. And each one of the energies brings up things that we need to clear. And what Jesus is saying is that he is not going to worry about why the karma got caused, but is going to send what is called the glory of God into the person. In Hebrew, the word for glory means energy. So Jesus is saying, I'm just going to send energy into his karma and see what happens. Is exactly what we are doing here. And so that's what this story actually means, that Jesus is not going to worry about what caused it. He's going to focus on what ends the karma, which is the radiance or energy. And so it starts by lovingly accepting the blindness as it is, and to see what happens when you send energy into the blindness. In this case, it lifts completely. And so I'd like for you to feel you're doing the same thing that Jesus does in the story. You're just sending energy into the mystery of an illness, not worrying about the causes. Now, as you send energy into the illness, sometimes the cause will surface and release. You'll actually see what caused it. A memory flash might occur where the person couldn't handle seeing something, so they chose to be blind at that moment. And then if the person can choose to see that, then one can release the issue and be healed. That sometimes happens in a Reiki session, and it will surface and be seen at the third eye level. The third eye links into what is sometimes called the causal body. It's the part of the soul that decides to let things happen. It's like makes decisions, and the soul's decisions are different from the personality. Like sometimes a person may, between lifetimes, see that, let us say, the person may have been cruel to many people, so one can actually choose to be on the receiving end of the cruelty, so that you can develop greater compassion for people and their suffering. You can call it like kind of empathic karma, that there's two ways of feeling and having compassion for people. One is to directly feel their suffering through empathy, and the other one is to have yourself recreate the same experience and walk through their experience. Attract the same lessons that the other person was learning to yourself, so you can walk in their moccasins, as it's called. And that can also release those things. So as you send Reiki to the surface of that, it goes deeper and deeper. One of the things that Reiki tends to do very easily is to starts by healing the physical body in a simple way. If there's tension, it relaxes. And as the outer symptoms relax and dissolve, at least temporarily, it's like peeling off layers and layers, and you see what caused the surface layer as you go through. Eventually you reach the level where the person is unconsciously choosing to have the illness, and so they can constantly choose to let it go, and then the person's healed. If one is patient with the process, that point will unfold if it's necessary. Sometimes the person's already let go of the cause and just needs to let go of the symptoms as well. And that's why it's good to just send energy into the illness and let it unwind itself and heal itself. We create an environment of loving acceptance, and love, through accepting things as they are, transforms everything into the likeness of itself. And you can do this with this kind of contact with a person. You can also do it for yourself too. You can visualize and see your body and feel like you're scanning your body and sending energy, or bringing the energy through and touching it and sending energy into a mystery. And when you're doing it for yourself, if it's possible to let go of trying to get rid of your illness. The illness is a process and not a thing, and so there's no thing to get rid of called the illness. the process will unfold and unwind backwards until its release. And there is a saying by one healer that helps to illuminate this, and that is, all symptoms are the cure in progress, whereas the disease symptoms are the way the cure unfolds. It's sometimes called Herring's law of cure, which is that the symptoms appear in reverse order of how they came. If a person got a fever and then chills and shakes, the person may shake during the session, even get the fever back, and the fever will dissolve. So reverses pattern. And sometimes it's not quite as linear as that, as several different cures can have different protocols and overlap. But in general, the symptoms do tend to go in reverse order. And so if any symptoms are appearing, if a pain suddenly flares up, it's a good thing that it's happening. And the best thing to do is send love to the pain itself, and just to give the pain time to be fully felt and then dissolve. One of the interesting things about pain is that pain itself is a mystery, and it's a signal of something to consciousness. It's a communication. And we're meant to hear our pain and listen to it. And sometimes if we listen to our pain, the pain will simply dissolve. Once the message is delivered, there are parts of us that know what to do to heal it, that are simply mobilized. Like if there's inflammation, the heat of the inflammation will activate enzymes to heal the inflammation. So by placing attention there, consciousness begins to amplify the heat by consciously being aware of it, and the enzymes activate more quickly and surely. It is sometimes called brain mapping in neurophysiology, where you allow the brain, through awareness of sensations, to remap the area. It's like the brain has forgotten this area had pain being held in it. And so now that you're aware of the pain again, the brain automatically mobilizes healing resources to that place. So by just being aware and sending loving energy to those places and continuing to breathe, one can allow the healing to unwind. And it does help to have a kind of patience to be with the symptoms. And when you're doing a remote session, you'll also get what's called a completion signal, which is that you will suddenly feel that all the healing what's meant to happen during the session has happened. There's a feeling of being complete. And sometimes the energy of the person will relax into a kind of peace, or the pulses will suddenly get strong and healthy and then dissolve. You will get sensitized to the feeling of completion. There'll be like a natural pause that occurs. You can trust your intuitive seeing and feeling that it has happened. And sometimes healing sessions remote healing sessions can be shorter than doing Reiki hands-on. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. And one reason why is that in order to do remote healing, you connect on the mental level first and then feel the other levels. Whereas when you're doing physical hands-on Reiki, the connection is first in the physical, and then gradually moves to the mental. So there is a stronger need for contact in remote healing. There's like, you need to trust the felt sense of connection you're getting intuitively in order to work. Whereas when you have a person hands-on, you feel you're connecting more simply through the body and sensation. Though there is a lesson for Honshinzei Shonin, is that ultimately all Reiki is remote, in the sense that the connection, the felt sense of connection on the intuitive mental level is very important even with hands-on healing. sometimes you can lay on hands and not feel like you're fully connected. And so if the connection's made more quickly, the healing can be more rapid. It's like the connection dissolves the sense of separation. And all illness, in a way, has a belief in separation from the energy of love itself. So when we send loving energy to a place, we reconnect a person back to the energy. That's really what's happening during healing. Unconditional love accepts everything as it is, and through that acceptance transforms everything into the likeness of itself. It reconnects everything back with itself, and through that heals. And in the Gospel according to John, when John the Baptist announces Jesus as the Messiah, he says, "Behold the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world," singular. And the deepest meaning behind that is there's only one sin, that's believing you're separate from love. That all the other sins are just symptoms of that one core disease. So when you do Reiki, you're actually starting with a solution in a very deep way, which is also hinted in the way Jesus sends loving energy to the mystery of the person blind from birth. By healing the sense of separateness behind any illness, it's going deep to the core of all the illnesses. It's I like to call that starting with a solution rather than the problem, and then seeing what happens next. I'd like for you to gather the sense of these communications and breathe and feel these energies. I feel like you're completing your focus on whatever person you've chosen this energy to, and feel the attunement is now complete. Asking your guides to once again bless and energize the symbols. Asking your own subconscious mind to hold the Honjin Seishonen in your threefold center on the forehead. And before completing with the symbol, there's a hidden other way of looking at Honjin Seishonen. And that is your birth into this life. If you take the symbol going from the bottom up rather than the top down, the circle with a lightning surge is being birthed from the womb. You go from a space of loving energy and surge out into the world. And then you gain a body, a heart, and a mind. Then you center in the midst of life. Then you raise up into trusting life. And then you center in the four elements. So it's like the unfoldment of a cosmic adult was looked at that way. And one exercise that is really worth doing is to take something like corn flour or quinoa flour and to draw the symbol on the ground, or to draw it on a sandy beach if you have the opportunity, where it's been flattened by a high tide and a low tide. And from the center of the circle to the earth point is one step, one large but not hyperextended, one very large but simple step. You get the size of the circle plus, and then another step brings you into the smile part. Another step brings you into the first spiral, another step to the second, another step to the third. And you can build the proportions that way. And You can make the symbol something you can walk, and if you walk with meditative breathing and a slow Kihin Zen walk, you can feel the energy of the symbol by walking them. And in the Nazca plane, there are these symbols that people believe are UFO runways. A beetle and many different creatures are seen from above. What is interesting is that these carvings into the land are the exact size to be walked. The width is the width of a human being walking. They are like sacred symbols you can walk to get the energy in the same way you can do with Honsha Shonen. And I'll leave that to be something to explore for you. It means the same thing, but you can feel the stepping in trust once you center in the four elements. You center there, step into the earth and feel grounded, and step into trusting the earth. And then you can go to the very center and bring an intention and build your life around it and surge energy into an empty space. You can also feel yourself being birthed and going upwards all the way to the circle plus at the top. In that way, it feels like the tree of life in the Kabbalah when you do it that way. It's a good experience to do. I invite you to do it, and if possible, report on your experience. Sending energy blessings to everyone who's present here. End of Attunement transmission.